Hey guys, Emily Muccianti here, and I am back for a video finally about the Big Sky Literacy Summit that was just recently held in Big Sky, Montana. And let me tell you, oh my gosh, I'm still overwhelmed and still processing all of the amazingness and all the learning and everything, all the people. Oh my gosh, bucket list conference if you can get there. This video is for anybody who is interested in learning and growing about being a reading teacher. I really want my intervention teachers to pay close attention, but also my new teachers, because you guys are eventually going to be carrying the torch. And I'm just going to go ahead and say right up front, I have been spending so much time trying to figure out how to organize everything that I've had, because I can't do it all in one video. It's just going to be too much. And rather than getting hung up on how it's going to be organized, I decide I'm just going to go ahead and tell you what I saw using my notes. I'm going to be looking at my notes quite a bit because I want to be as accurate as possible. And I just want to get it out there so that you guys can all research some of these amazing people. There will be links down below for some free articles and reports that they had given us access to, hopefully some contact links to some of these amazing experts that I am going to talk about today. But this is not going to be the only session. So today, the way I decided to organize it, if you want to call it that, is really about, I want to take some of the best, brightest mentors out there. The theme of this summit was standing on the shoulders of mentors. And let me tell you, oh my gosh, it did not disappoint. So I'm going to talk specifically about 7 particular experts today. I want to share with you what I took away from their talks, their sessions, and I want to give you more to learn about, more to think about. That's the way it's going to be. The next part of this session, this video, is really going to be about some that were in the trenches, some books that I was exposed to, some new experts, and we'll go with it from that. So let me say this first. Don't forget, like, subscribe, share, please, please, please. I love it when you comment. I love it when you email. Thank you to those of you. I have some lovely ladies that I am working closely with this year, helping coach them through their intervention journey. And so special shout out to you guys, because you need to watch this, because we're going to be talking about it in detail. All right, so I have to have my glasses today because this is crazy. First, I have to tell you, Dr. Danielle Thompson, Dr. Nell, this is what she goes by, was the Big Sky Literacy Summit chairperson. She is the organizer. She was the MC, everything. She and her team. Shout out, Dr. Nell, to you and your team, because best conference hands down that I have ever been to in my career, 30-year career. It was amazing. And I wanted to give you some quotes and just tell you a little bit about these people, and so that you can start following them. So Dr. Nell was truly this lovely, kind, gentle, inspirational human being. She reminds me a little bit of, she's kind of got some hippie vibe to her, bohemian, and I just loved it. She was so open-hearted and just genuine. She brought tears to my eyes throughout the conference, quite honestly. And a couple of the points that she really made at the beginning, she said, you know, and I'm paraphrasing here, I'm going to do the best I can. It's an uphill journey, but nothing worthwhile is downhill. And I thought, oh my gosh, if this is how we're going to start, I love it. Dr. Nell is also a part of the Transformative Teacher Group, and I believe she's based out of Middle Tennessee State University. So if you want to look in and follow her, there's going to be more throughout. She said at one point, the work that we do is hard, get up and do it anyway. And this just really spoke to me. It was kind of a kick in the pants, like, stop our complaining as an industry, as a profession. The work is hard. It's always been hard. It's just continuing to give us new challenges, but it's so important. Do it anyway. And so, yeah, she was amazing. In fact, one of the little giveaways that her team gave us were Harry Potter wands because we had magic to do. Come on now. It was the best. I was super excited because, yes, I'm a Harry Potter fiend, and it was awesome. All right. So the next expert and mentor that really kicked off this whole conference was Dr. Jack Fletcher. And he is from the Texas Learning Disability Center. So you can find him at texasldcenter.org. He is, I believe, he's either a psychologist or a neuropsychologist. Brilliant man. He talked a great deal about dyslexia. And in particular, he led us with, if you don't teach them well, they can develop dyslexia. Dyslexia, we know, is a problem with reading. That is in its broadest generalization. He went on to explain that so much of the dyslexia really is a problem at the word level. So it's predominantly an issue with decoding and spelling in particular. He expressed that dyslexia cannot be diagnosed or developed until there is an instructional response or a lack thereof. So we can't just say people are dyslexic. There has to be an inability or a difficulty in learning to read. And so that was really interesting to me. His take on screening, he talked a great deal about universal screening. We know that it must be quick. The goal is to identify who needs more assessment. You hear me talking about this when I talk about Acadience quite a bit. The accuracy goals minimized false negatives. So we need to look at accuracy as also a component of that qualifying factor. And we can't separate students with dyslexia from those that just have foundational reading problems. We are going to work with them in the exact same way. The label really doesn't matter, is what I walked away from with that little bit of nugget. Like, they're all struggling to read. We're going to approach it in very much the same fashion. He also talked about not overcomplicating the assessments, which I love because it's all about simplifying things that are very complex. Do not complicate assessment. We need to look at letter sounds. We need to look at word reading in isolation and passage reading. But I have a note here. I missed some of that final note. And so I'm going to reach out and ask for a little bit of clarification there. Or if anybody was there, I would love to hear what you think in the comments below. So he did talk about how text level issues are not dyslexia. This, again, really is resounded in the word level and decoding and spelling of words. He said it can be prevented with intense remediation and that the skills must be taught. He mentioned through research that remediation after second grade was less effective. So again, a call for early intervention, kinder, first, second. It's not too late. I don't want to leave you with that whole thing. He just said that it's harder. The work is harder as the kids get older. And then he talked a little bit about special education. And I found this to be really interesting because those of us in intervention are usually tied closely to our SPED teams, as I think we should be. But he said, special education does not move kids. It stabilizes them, but it does not close the gap. So that I thought was really profound. We can help to stabilize them, and we've seen that happen, but really, again, how do I interpret that is They need still intervention if we're going to close the gap. Prevention is more effective than remediation. I think we are all pretty much on board with that. And 70 to 90% of students in grades K2 can learn to read at the average range. So when Dr. Fletcher talked about kind of the connection to curriculum, he really said that there are lots of programs that will work if they meet the fundamentals. We have to focus in on decoding, fluency, and comprehension. And so lots of opportunities there for us to kind of explore and dig a little bit deeper. He said, keep it simple. See the word, say the word, write the word. He also mentioned some evidence and research that does not necessarily support rule-based approaches to phonics, which that I found really kind of intriguing. Again, it goes back to just keeping it simple. So I would like to look a little bit deeper with that. With adolescents, the focus really needs to be comprehension and vocabulary, which I have seen also in my own practice. And it really takes about 3 years for effective results for our adolescents. So again, it's not too late. It just takes longer. And then who is dyslexic? The student who does not respond to quality instruction. In other words, the hard to teach. So he said, if you are starting just to explore this and you want to really kind of be impactful with your teaching or with your programs, start with first grade and then add kinder and then add second and go from there. Good advice. All right, we were then brought into Dr. Nancy Hennessy, who has the blueprint for comprehension. Let me get to another note page here. Sorry, I had a tech issue. You can see this is why it looks like I jumped ahead because I had to pause and do this. So Dr. Hennessy talked about 2 helpful theories for reading comprehension, or really looking at those things, the tried and true, the reading systems framework and the simple view of reading. She has put together something called the Reading Comprehension Blueprint, which is a master plan for comprehension. And she reminded us that, you know, the end goal of comprehension is learning. That's what we have to be focused in on. There is learning. And then Dr. Louisa Moats, oh my gosh. Okay, so her career is so amazing. She really can be, I think, looked at as the matriarch of the science of reading movement. She has so much knowledge, so much information, and she brought in the connection and importance of language development, focusing in on language and what language can do for reading outcomes. And so this was kind of it was an eye-opener for me. Not only that, but before they did this, they honored her with a timeline of her career. She spoke about all of the amazing learning and people and experts that she was connected to. What a beautiful, humble woman with just a deep, huge, amazing career. And I know that it probably hasn't always been easy, but she is certainly, I hope, going to be able to see some of the benefits of her research. And so she talked a lot about language development, and that teaching the 5 components of language or of reading is just not enough. She focused in about language. We need to learn language, and teachers need to be required to be educated about language. She mentioned that 50% of the words that we teach are predictable. 36% are predictable with 1 error, and this has to do with encoding, and that error is typically in the vowel. 10% are predictable if the students understand the morphology and the origin of the words, and only 4% of the English language are true oddities. Only 4%. So when we kind of use that scapegoat of, you know, English is just too difficult, we're not really being accurate there. So she had a great deal to share about the importance of language. Let me go to another, note page. This was something that I learned from her, and I'm just going to fully admit it. She talked about what, let me see if I can find it. Sorry. The graphemes. I was always under the assumption that a grapheme was simply a letter, and it is not. A grapheme is a written representation of a phoneme, and so it can be represented with a number of letters. That was a really interesting thing that I hope to pursue, because as we moved in and out of Dr. Moats' conversation, it moved into Dr. Deb Glaser, who is I would really say, a guru related to morphology. She has a program called Morpheme Magic that has 2 levels. There's one designed for primary, one designed for intermediate. And between Dr. Moats and Dr. Glaser, they really opened my eyes and gave me some new things that I need to explore and learn about in the area of morphology. And so there is so much more to come, I think, with Dr. Glaser's work with Morpheme Magic, because I'm going to be exploring that and what that looks like a little bit deeper. But she really talked about the relationship between words and the advanced word study, being able to see it, read it, hear it, spell it. So you hear some of these things kind of, some, I guess, repetitions through these experts. And then we need to show ourselves writing words. She said, when you're teaching morphology, we don't want to just project words. And I think a lot of us do this now tech-wise. She said there's such an important component for the teacher writing the word as they're kind of pulling it apart, breaking apart those morphemes, so that the students could see the connection. I thought that was very important. I wanted to make sure I pointed that out. So know the words, use the words, and understand the words. So between Dr. Moats and Dr. Glaser, again, a lot of conversation about the importance of language, the importance of morphology, and morphology for the purposes of not only decoding and spelling, but vocabulary. You know, we know that we cannot possibly teach every single word in the English language. And so giving students the tools and the components of those words through morphology is an excellent way to help them be a little independent, truly, with their own additional knowledge and learning. Okay, 2 more. Dr. Julie Washington. Wow. So Dr. Julie Washington came in and spoke to us about language variations and reading comprehension, and how language variations, particularly dialects, or some of our regional areas in our country, and the dialects they use, and how that impacts comprehension. And so this was really kind of new to me. This is not my area. So she talked about how everyone in the US speaks a dialect, and her experience is mostly with the African American populations and communities and dialects related there, but her research has gone all over the world into different languages, and it was really fascinating. But I think one of the big things that she wanted to be clear about is that it's important for teachers to teach kids to read, yes, but we need to not focus on changing the way they talk, because the way they talk is a part of their community. It's a part of their identity. It's a part of their home and their culture, and that we need to honor that. And so I thought that was very important as a message to take away. She did talk about how those language variations really can impact reading comprehension, and how it's important for our students that she called bi-dialectical, that they are given more time and more practice to master that general American English that is used in some of that academic language, because it really does impact their comprehension. I found that talk fascinating. And that those dialects impact all domains of language. So that was Dr. Julie Washington. I had some questions after her session, really kind of wondering if that means that we need to approach our students that have these very impactful dialects, if we need to look at them from almost an English learner standpoint. I don't know the answer. It was just a question that I had. I was curious about that. Yeah, that was a fascinating one to me. And then finally, Dr. Hugh Katz from Florida State University, another, I believe, neuropsychologist in dyslexia in particular, talked about the implications of dyslexia, the implications for practice. And he really, again, reiterated some of these things that our other experts had mentioned. He talked about high quality Tier 1 is essential for prevention of dyslexia, prevention of reading problems. And we know this. I'm an interventionist, of course, but I never say that we can fix it all with intervention. We absolutely have to have strong, dynamic Tier 1 instruction, and then our intervention programs can really come in and fill the gaps. He also echoed the whole early identification being crucial for making sure that our students are working toward that proficiency. So I work with a lot of schools and educators out there. Some schools are isolated or segmented by grade levels. You might have a K2 school, a 3-4 school, a 5-6 middle school, so on. And sometimes there's not a lot of talking, like vertical teaming within those. So if you are a part of a school where you're working with older students and you haven't had those vertical teams, those conversations with younger kids, or those younger grade levels, you really need to talk and see what's happening there, because we know that's where the biggest impact happens. So advocating, even if it's not your site, advocating for that early intervention, early identification, so that we can help. And then I want to leave you with Dr. Nell's, another quote from Dr. Nell. She said, "The only thing limiting an organization is how well it's equipped its educators with the right information, leadership, and time." And oh my gosh, does that not hit you right in the gut? Like, those are the things limiting us in the role we carry as interventionists, whether you're not being given the right information, the right support, right leadership, or the right amount of time. Those are the things that we need to really work towards so that we can do the best we can in the role that we're currently given. Listen, I hope that this gave you some points to think about, some new concepts to explore. As I mentioned, I'm going to drop links down below so that you can see some of the work of these amazing people. Again, I want to leave you and a final shout out to Dr. Nell Thompson. Amazing conference. If you are able to ever go to the Big Sky Literacy Summit, strongly recommend it. I got to show you my shirt. The Big Sky Literacy Summit. Inform teachers, change lives. That is a quote from Dr. Louisa Moats. It is about helping you become informed so that you can improve your practice and make those decisions and changes and provide instruction needed by those little darlings that need us the most. Thanks for watching today. Like, subscribe, share. I'll see you next time. Thanks for what you do. Bye for now.